Hello and welcome to another episode of From the Fallen 835. I'm not the Fallen. I'm Monkey from Monkey Sense TV, and I'll be hosting this special episode tonight. And I've got right with me a Sith Lord and a Jedi Master.
Ooh.
Wait, which one is which? Because I want to be Sith too.
About to ask that, yeah.
You're Canadian. You
I
can't be Sith.
So by default, I have to be the Peacekeeper. Yeah.
Yeah.
You
Of
could be
course
Han
you do,
Solo.
man.
You are wearing a jacket, a waistcoat.
Yeah.
You could be Han.
Okay, yes. I being more distinguished and not wearing a hood or something. Then
You
I
could be
I'll
Carillion.
definitely.
You
Yes,
could be Carillion, man.
sounds good.
We
A
need
Carillion
just a
Jedi.
blaster.
You get the pants and the boots and the waistcoat and everything, man.
I was gonna say that if this starts to go into like a Farscape realm, I could be a Peacekeeper. Can I? Like the only Canadian reference I could.
Why
think
do you
of.
have to
He
go with
always brings
Farscape?
it up.
Why do you have to ruin things with Farscape? Anyway,
A
ladies
little
and
thing-
gentlemen, before we go on to any further, yes, I'm joined with none other than Razzatron himself, Jonathan Rasmussen.
Just Razz is easy.
Who's Raz?
You need to
Who's
make
Raz?
more videos. You
You
really
do need to make more videos, fool. Okay.
I've gotten a new setup, and yes, I should.
Yes. Okay, you've heard it, folks. You heard it here first. And with him as with us as well, because it would be rude if he wasn't here, wouldn't it?
It's my channel after all, you know.
It is your channel. It's the Robert Turner, the Fallen 835.
Hello, everyone. Do you remember when we tried to do something like this last
Oh
time, Jim?
God, it was bad.
It was really terrible. And I mean, if
Oh,
any of you
no.
actually watched that, then dear God, we're sorry.
Yeah, we're sorry. We're sorry.
But,
Okay.
uh,
So tonight we are talking about, as you can see in the title, Star Wars Rebels. And we're putting our thoughts into what this is all about, what we thought of it, and how we're going to go about this. So, let's start off with Star Wars Rebels. It was a show that started 15, 16, about 20 weeks ago, actually, probably around about that, because there was a bit of a gap, wasn't there?
yeah, it was
Yeah.
last year.
Yeah, and it basically is 5 years before A New Hope.
And 14 years after Revenge of the Sith. Yeah.
That's right. That's it. Well, no, wasn't it 17 years? Wasn't A New Hope 17 years from Revenge of the Sith?
I thought
Luke
that
was 17, wasn't he?
in an episode of Rebels, when they're celebrating a certain day, they say it's been 15 years that day that the Empire's been around.
Oh, right. Okay. Only you would know this.
I know.
I'd be
I
like,
know.
shh, over my head on this one.
What can
Okay.
I say, you know?
In this particular universe, it felt to me that they were ignoring the films that shall not be named, and it
I'm
was
fine with
basically like a continuation. Like the Clone Wars TV show had just finished, and Rebels was basically almost set directly after, or a little bit after, like 5 years after the Clone Wars cartoon had ended. That's where I felt this universe fit.
Okay, so we're just going to go over a few things, and I'll just basically point them out, and we'll sort of start talking about it. So, if you don't mind, I'll start with this. Expectations going into the series. Okay. So I had a good feeling myself. I had a good feeling this with the Clone Wars turned out to be a fantastic addition to the franchise, if not
Yeah.
the canon. I had a positive feeling towards this. To be honest, I thought, yeah, I mean, Warner Brothers did pretty good with Clone Wars, and give it to Disney, see what they can do, and they've got the yeah. What do you think, Rob?
See, I was actually completely different to that, because I absolutely loved Clone Wars, and I loved Clone Wars when it was on. I mean, I followed it from the very beginning. I kind of grew up with it.
Yeah.
Learned to appreciate it quite a lot. And so when they cancelled it, it was like, I don't know, a member of my family had died. It was kind of that impacting that I was sad. God, the day it was announced, I was just like, no, you wouldn't really want to have been around me then. And I was actually quite angry that it was being replaced by this new Disney show, which I thought was just going to be childish. They're going to take Star Wars in a completely wrong direction. Yeah, how wrong was I? How really wrong was I?
Okay, so what about you, Raz?
I had a similar introduction, but I didn't watch Star Wars the Clone Wars as it was coming out. I watched it in retrospect, where I watched the entire series on basically front to back, and it was an interesting show to see the development of where they were going to take the characters. Yeah. And going into this particular show as Rebels, I thought to myself, they're going to start showing things like how Leia goes into the Rebels, and how they developed an actual Rebel system. And I was curious about how they were going to develop characters, because I really hadn't known who the Rebels are, because you see the Rebels in the movies, but you don't understand how they got to that point. So I was really curious about how they're going to get to that point.
I thought the similar thing. I wasn't bothered about Leia as such. I didn't think I was hoping, to be honest, that the main Star Wars characters from the Holy Trilogy are not being used. But we'll go into it later on. The thoughts on that have changed slightly, not too much. But let's move on. We started with this, and we thought we obviously like this show, ladies and gentlemen. You're getting the vibe already. Yeah. We like this show, and we just want to go over why we like this show. Rob, you're not going first. Razz is this time. Let Razz say so. Go on, Razz.
Why did I like this show? It was touched on just briefly a moment ago. Why I love stories, and when stories get stale and boring, it's not fun. And I love this series because it wasn't boring. It wasn't your average Star Wars approach, where it wasn't thinking about, let's bring Luke in and let's bring Skywalker in. Where's Darth Vader, and we're going to have those guys as the center. I mean, we've just finished off Clone Wars, where we've seen Anakin Skywalker and Darth Vader development and that type of thing. And now we're actually going to see those characters set aside, and let's see where the Rebels are. Let's actually see the face of the Rebels. And that's something that I really enjoyed about this show. I mean, there was a perspective that I've seen people online talk about. It's like, this is just going to be the secret Jedi with his secret apprentice, and that doesn't really seem all that appealing. But when you start to watch the show and you see the characters they're introducing the character of Ezra, I wasn't exactly sure, because he looks a bit odd. It's basically just an orphan. And,
just if you just break it down to, maybe we should do this question after, Rob.
Fair enough. All right. Then.
What do you think?
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Do that one. So maybe we should go, because we are going into the characters already. So maybe I should.
First, yeah.
So let's go into the characters first, okay? So
you're talking about why you enjoy the show, and the show is centered around Ezra. You have to just mention that.
Cool.
It's a simple scaled down version, is what you're trying to say.
Yeah. It's not something when you're thinking about this giant expanded universe where you're following like several different plot lines while the film is trying to hold a sense of itself. Or later on in the Clone Wars, you had several different things that had to sort themselves out. This is just, here's a rebel planet.
That's a thing, if I may add, that Clone Wars was quite, in terms of its scale and its setting, it was huge. It took place on several planets. It was a war that was going on in the galaxy, whereas Rebels, it focuses on a small band of characters around, for the most part of the first season, on just one planet. And it's quite small, contained, and I like that about Rebels. It stands out.
It's kind of like what the original Star Wars was about, which was David and Goliath, the small versus the powerful, this ragtag motley crew against the galactic empire, and because of that, it feels like Star Wars more so than Clone Wars does. Because with Clone Wars, the good guys were on top; they were powerful. That was the Republic, the old Republic. And but you knew as someone watching it that the Republic's days were numbered. But throughout the show, the films, they never seemed like the underdogs. And that's the thing. Star Wars that I know, was all about the underdogs, the Rebel Alliance, being constantly on the back foot, being chased by the Galactic Empire across the galaxy. You know, Rebels do something, but that does the same thing, but on a smaller scale, and that's why I like this show.
I've seen it compared by quite a few fans, similar to Firefly.
Yes, absolutely.
It's got that vibe about it, and also leading on from something you were saying, in terms of the characters, you knew in Clone Wars where they would end up, but with Rebels, you don't. We don't know what's going to happen to the characters in the show. It could go anywhere, which brings another element in, which Clone Wars, we know what happens in Episode 3, so it's kind of like, well, that's going to happen at the end, isn't it?
Yeah. So, what I'm going to do now is just go over the characters. Now, before we go any further, I want to say there will be some spoilers in this, because we've seen the whole first season now. So, before we mention anything, we will shout spoilers. Really, to be honest, I think actually no, we won't. We're going to go through the whole thing. So if you haven't seen the last 3 episodes, don't watch this. Go straight to whichever one you've been watching and go and watch the last 3 episodes, because they're absolutely amazing. Watch the last 3 in the instant. Even if you've watched whatever the first one was,
Spark of the Rebellion.
Spark of the Rebellion, I think that's what it was. Start watching that and then just go through there. So we'll start off with Kanan Jarrus. He's Spectre 1, and he's voiced by Freddie Prinze Jr. Oh, what, Razz? You got some thoughts on Kanan? Sorry, you got any idea?
Well, perspective. He starts off as a bit of a dick, and
wow.
And
okay, keep going, brother. Well,
there's something to be said about, you don't want the typical Jedi master, because you don't know he's a Jedi at the beginning. He's kind of,
thanks to Disney spoiling it all in the bloody trailer.
I watched it online on a streaming website, so I all the Disney XD stuff for has all those commercials in it and all the advertising for toys, which has to be said that Disney went hardcore with so much advertising, and I must say that watching it online with commercials removed is a dream. It feels so much better when you don't have to watch all this stuff. And that's where my experience lay. But he's a bit of a dick and didn't know he was a Jedi, and kind of felt like they were going to put it in that direction. Because with Spark of Rebellion, they had that cube that responded, that you had to use the Force to open it.
The hologram.
The holocron,
the holocron, and just to kind of get that, let's start this slow, maybe not even have the Jedi in it at all, just have it be like, kind of felt a bit like Aladdin, and I know that's kind of, it's just like this kid discovering he's on the streets, he's stealing things, and he's not quite the prince yet, he's not quite the Jedi, and Jasmine hasn't come into this, so it's very interesting that they bring another character named Sabine, which is slightly Arabic in its character. So it's a bit like Aladdin in space, the first impression of everybody there.
Okay.
And Kanan was I don't know, he's not quite the genie.
Yeah.
But
I saw him with Freddie Prinze Jr. doing it. It's kind of like a New York accent to him. And so he's like, he's kind of a street guy. And at the beginning when you don't know he's a Jedi, but that voice helps. And the fact is as well, no one on the planet knows he's a Jedi as well. The only people that know he's a Jedi is the crew, which I kind of like. What about you, Rob? What are your thoughts?
Same. Yeah, I was actually going to talk about that, really. I love the fact that he's a Jedi in hiding, because one thing so far, past several years in Star Wars that we've seen the prequels, we've seen the heyday of the Jedi. We haven't actually seen Jedi hiding from the Empire for a while. And
we have Ben Kenobi, but that's one way of doing it.
That was quite a few years ago since we've had the original trilogy. Since then, we've had the prequels where they've had a huge Jedi Order found Jedi around the galaxy. But I like that. Plus, I really like his interaction with Hera. Those two have some sort of thing going on there. Which
definitely.
It's been explored in a book that came out recently called A New Dawn, but I haven't read it yet. But there's definitely something going on between them.
Well, let's talk about it. This is Hera Syndulla, and she is the captain of the Ghost, which is the it's a Corellian freighter. And she is. Do you know? I get the feeling that those two are married. You know,
Married?
I honestly think
Wow.
that they're married.
I wouldn't
honestly
go that
think.
far.
No, I think I would actually. Not the last 3 episodes. I think it was the. Oh no! It was the last episode.
I mean,
I get the feeling that they are. To be honest.
they call each other dear and love, but
Yeah.
it could still be that they're either in a relationship or really close acquaintance.
It
with each other.
yeah it. I mean, being married, I have been married in the past, and it does feel like that kind of old married couple.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It almost felt like a divorced couple because there hasn't been any references to them actually being in love. They're putting it aside for the rebellion.
And this
Like
is
yeah.
so, and she's Spectre 2, and she's voiced by Vanessa Marshall. And the other thing I liked about this show as well is whenever they were on a mission, they'd always refer to each other as the Spectre number
Yeah.
on
Well,
the
it's like
radio,
this-
so they never gave away their names, kind of thing.
And you've got to be old enough to be like it's like Mr. Pink and Mr. White, and it seems
yeah.
you have to go. Well, once
No.
kids, once you're over 18, go and watch Reservoir Dogs. Reservoir Dogs is a wonderful film.
So
And that's
then,
yeah, Spectre 1, like all these aliases, so that if they do get overheard on some radio channel, like they get hacked or whatever, they're not
Yeah.
talking their actual real names. Rebels
Yeah.
don't say their real names; they say their aliases.
No,
Yeah.
of course. I see Hera as kind of a mother figure to the crew as well.
absolutely,
She's
Yeah,
definitely the one
she
that's
is.
keeping them all together. I mean, Kanan is kind of the leader, but she's the one that's keeping them together emotionally and bonded. And,
Yeah.
you know, you hardly ever see a Twi'lek as a pilot as well in Star Wars. It's quite unusual.
it's nice to see him as not a slave, you know,
Yeah,
dancing.
Yes.
yeah, covered up,
It's,
no green boobs, just there.
No, we like green boobs, Razz. Just Anyway,
Hera, dear.
let's move on. So then we've got Gara Zeb Aurelius, who's Spectre 3, who is voiced by the great Steve Bloom.
Hail to Steve Bloom.
Hey,
No,
all
as-
hail the Bloom.
As we're a Transformers fan, he's a huge part of our lives.
Yeah, and I'm a big Cowboy Bebop fan myself. So
Yeah, and it's hard not to hear Wolverine. It really is.
Oh yeah, he's honestly the thing of the interesting thing about the character itself is the design of it, because it was originally Chewie's design, wasn't it?
I was going to touch upon
Ralph
that. Yeah.
McQuarrie, yeah.
It was
Go on,
originally based on a Ralph McQuarrie, a piece of concept art from the first film that they
Yeah.
never used, and then they actually turned it into a different creature. And much like quite a lot of the locations, the ships, sort of the scenery of the show, it's all based on original Ralph McQuarrie concept
yeah.
art, which I love. I absolutely love.
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. His stuff was amazing.
It was.
So then we go over to he's like the muscle. He's pretty hard. He's like a warrior class.
Yeah,
And he seems to be. We haven't picked up too much. There's a little bit of background to these guys, but with Zeb, he was an honor guard of some kind. Only a certain class in his race can hold these weapons that he has, because there's another character which we'll talk about in a minute who has one, who has no right to have it, but he got it because he killed one.
Well,
Yeah.
I think it's also implied that his people at the present time in the show are kind of being subjugated by the Empire, so there's not
Like
many
the
of them left.
Wookiees.
Like the Wookiees, exactly.
Yeah.
So, which gives him even more reason to hate the Empire.
Yeah.
yeah.
And the next one, which is the words of loss, mate. It begins with a P. It's the person you listen to. You're paying. Come on, it's Ezra Bridger. He is the.
The Padawan.
Come on, no, not the Padawan. Come on, in the story, he is the protagonist.
Protagonist?
Thank you. Couldn't remember the
Right.
word. Just gone. He's the protagonist, Ezra Bridger. Which is an interesting surname, Bridger, bridging episode 3 to episode 4, maybe. It was
I
that
look at
meaning
stuff
in that.
deeply.
If they revealed that his father was named Jeff, that would just be brilliant.
Jeff Bridger. But he's voiced by Taylor Gray, and so far so good on this cast, by the way.
Yeah, brilliant choice. I mean, great voice actors, all of them. in each
Yeah,
film.
usually it's good as well because the kid isn't annoying. I mean, us as Transformer fans, you'll ask any Transformer fan and you say, what's the worst thing about Transformers? The kids that are involved in the shows. We hate them. But this one's good. He's cocksure of himself. He's a street rat. He's a street kid, you know. But they do it right. They do it just right.
He's also developed quite a lot over the first season. As you
He
said,
has.
he started off as a street rat, only caring about himself. But near the end of the season, he actually is part of a family now and cares and looks out for everyone else, which is brilliant. Because
what about you, Razz?
My thoughts on Ezra? Yeah, you said street rat. It's totally Aladdin in space, but I enjoyed him as a character. It's something where you want to care about him.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's that was something that was a bit different. It's like watching or seeing other things in Star Wars, like things to do with Anakin Skywalker. Anakin Skywalker can sod off. It was just it's too much of a thing. It's like, let's try to make Darth Vader innocent and show the development towards the dark side. Enough. Don't care.
You know that you've just upset probably a whole generation of little kids that grew up with those prequel trilogies.
Okay, I'm no the three films that shall not be named. There's no such thing as pod racing.
Or Jar Jar Binks, for that matter.
Oh, yeah, pickles go through Jar Jar. Get away from me. Wow.
But was there anything else you wanted to add about? Oh, sorry, go on, John.
I was gonna say Ezra is nice to see. This is going to take a bit of an interesting perspective. This is a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, so this has nothing to do with Earth or humans. When you start to see Ezra's character develop as he's not a white character, he's an ethnic character, and to see that this is an ethnic, it feels much more worldly. Or universe. Like, this is not your typical kid. He's raised differently. He's a different person altogether, and that from that perspective, I enjoyed this particular series because it took me away from all of the stereotypes where it's not a white actor anymore. So for me, I started to experience like, yeah, let's I got behind him as an orphan. He was truly a rebel. He was someone. He was out to survive. He had everything taken away from him, and where he was living is living in a I think it was a communication tower, and it was collecting the heads or the helmets of all these different stormtroopers.
It's not that hardcore, mate. It's not that hardcore. It's just helmets.
Yeah.
It's not Deadpool, you know.
Well, maybe.
You never know. Those helmets could have heads in.
That's it.
Yeah.
So then we go on to Sabine Wren, who's Spectre 5. She's voiced by Taya Serka. And I want to say a couple of things about Sabine. Forget the fact that she's dressed up like a Mandalorian. I don't know if she's Mandalorian. We haven't gone into that really. She is Mandalorian. She is. Okay. What I like about her is her free spirit. She is definitely a free spirit and an artist. And the Empire call her the artist because she's known for her graffiti. You know, like what's his face? God, look at me. No, Banksy. You know, everyone knows who Banksy is. She's kind of like that on this planet, you know. And I like that idea. I like the idea that she was the one that created the symbol for the Rebel Alliance as well. I like that. I love the idea of the explosive spray paint. That's good. Just lots of little things about her. I love her colours. I love her hair, how it's done, how the armour is painted. She's done that herself, and it's just just a wonderful character. And I'd like to know a bit more about her.
Same. Her backstory would be really interesting because I mean, in the whole of the first season, she was one of the characters that had hardly any sort of backstory given to her. I mean, we know she was in an Imperial Academy and then something happened, and that's why she doesn't like the Empire now. But it's not more. But I absolutely love the character. For me, she's my favourite character in the series, to be honest. I mean, I love it. Go on, Razz.
I was going to say that this is one of those typical story elements that she's the love interest. She's at least it's. I'm trying to say that I don't want it to be that one-dimensional, but this is Ezra. He's a gawky teenager still. He's just like I don't understand girls, and this happens to be the girl who's on the team of his age that he's kind of, you can tell he's trying to, I don't know what to call it, use his, he's kind of a schmoozer. He's kind of a, he's like, hey, look at me, I'm Ezra, kind of thing, and goes after Sabine a little bit in the series.
There's a weird relationship between the two.
Yeah. They're very similar age, though, aren't they?
Yeah. The people who wrote the script for this are trying to develop those two together as I'll call it teenage romance, when it's not really a relationship.
I wouldn't say that. I'd say siblings.
Siblings?
I'd say a sibling, yeah, definitely sibling. I don't think there's anything going to come out of that, actually, to be honest.
Not for the present time at the moment, no. Maybe like further down the line, seasons down the line, but nothing at the moment.
So, but let's move. Oh, sorry, go on.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I absolutely love the armor she's wearing. I've always been a huge fan of the Mandalorians, like ever since they made their appearance in Clone Wars. The whole arc that they had in Clone Wars, the whole culture, it's just awesome. I love it, them as a people. And I mean, having an artist in Star Wars, as you were saying, it's something new. We don't really see that a lot in sort of all the stories that have gone before. And she's also a very creative person, which is something I can kind of link to. But it's just really good. Plus, her rapport between her and Zeb, that is kind of like a sibling, I would say. And sort of Zeb being an older brother and her being sort of a younger sister who she looks up to, which it's quite cool.
So and then we've come to Chopper, the C110P or 10P, whatever it is. Chopper, I like this guy. Razz, you go ahead, man. Tell us what you think of Chopper.
You're seeing me.
Seems that you're his colours. You're in his colours today.
He's hard to like.
Really?
I don't hate him, but I find he's a Transformer fan. He's the Bumblebee of this show.
No way. No, I disagree.
No.
God, no.
I hate. He's a jerk. He's another.
Bumblebee is not a jerk. Okay.
No, I'm trying to say that Chopper he's being a robot. He's got I'll talk about the good stuff. He has some of the most personality they've ever given a droid in any series.
Oh, definitely.
Where they haven't really developed anything. Well, if you watch R2 or seeing him, you can see that R2 is much, I'll call it, more serious droid. This guy is joking around and zapping people and he's being a jerk.
He is a jerk, absolutely. Yeah. That's why we like him, though.
Yeah. It's those little moments that wear on me a little bit, where it's like, I don't know. I can't understand him.
Okay. That's because you're Canadian. You're too nice to understand him. See, you will never be like that.
Yeah,
Canadians, you're all smiles and happy and maple syrup and stuff. So we can understand when you don't get Chopper. See, you guys are kind of like. Now, don't take this the wrong way, but you guys are kind of like the prequels, shiny. Everything's everything's all like nice and everything. But when you go into the Holy Trilogy and you start to talk about gritty and dirty and things that have been used a little bit, and that's not Canada really. Everyone's a little bit darker version of themselves. That's just not you guys, and we love you the way you are. So don't change. So. Well, go on, Razz. Go on, Bobby. Tell us what you think, man, of Chopper.
Yeah, as you're saying, he's just a rude, sort of mischievous astromech that loves to play jokes. And Chopper, Ezra, and Zeb have this really sort of funny comedy thing going on between the first season. I mean, normally it's that Chopper sort of upsets one of them, which upsets the other, and then they want to get after Chopper. And it's just kind of this little comedy moment those three characters have.
They're always fighting.
They are. They're kind of like the three kids on the ship.
Yeah.
But also his design. I love the fact that he has arms that come out of his actual top of the astromech, which is something you don't really see with an R2 unit. And plus it means he can do quite a lot more in terms of the ship. He can actually pilot it to an extent.
The thing is, he looks like an older model to R2.
Yeah.
He doesn't look as
he's got wires
developed.
Loose.
Yeah, he doesn't look as developed as R2. Not saying, just got to put it Gotta say it, but yeah, that's the crew of the Ghost, and then there's a couple of other characters in this with the Imperial side. And we start with Agent Callus, voiced by David Oyelowo, and let's start with that. I'll say this one, I like him. I like him. He's serious. He does his job. I don't know. He is a believer in the Imperial Order. He's not evil though. I think he's. Oh yeah, he is. Yeah, he is. Screw it. Yes, he is. What am I talking about? Of course he is. But he takes his job very, very seriously. He's not a bumbling idiot. Any thoughts, boys?
Well, I was going to say that I did like the character when he was first introduced. He's quite interesting, and he posed quite a real threat in the first couple of episodes.
Yeah.
But then, when other characters are introduced into the show, he kind of becomes outshone to the point by the end of the season that I think he's not really there. He's just a background character, and it's such a shame because he could be really well developed, and yet they've gone and focused on more important characters. But hopefully that's something we'll get onto later for season 2.
Yeah. I mean, he did get something on the last episode, didn't he? No, not the last episode.
He appears
the first of the 3 episodes, the last 3 episodes, when I'm not going to say who it is for the moment, but when that person turns up and he starts questioning people and stuff, and he asks him first what's happened, it kind of like, oh, so what did you do? Kind of thing.
Yeah, and he was at the very end of the last episode as well, when another character was introduced. But that's kind of been the thing. He's for the last couple of episodes, he's just been in the background, not really doing much.
Yeah,
it's been a shame.
Yeah. I think that having a season 1 is always an interesting time because you're introducing everybody, and to make a fully fleshed out world, they introduced him. They showed him as the lieutenant, not the commander. The lieutenant's going after the rebels, and he has specific weapons, and he's fleshed out. But being a season 1 character, it's kind of like, how do we use him? But we need to make sure that we get in and introduce these characters to make this world so that when you get to the end of season 1, you really want to see how this is going to develop, because you've got everyone set up in their spots, so everyone knows their role by the end of the season. And he was definitely a very nice villain, a bit Wolverine-like with the mutton shop stuff. It was kind of interesting.
He's also like the most active officer in the Imperial sort of army you ever see. I mean, like, look at the original trilogy. You see all the officers. They're either standing on a bridge of a Star Destroyer, not doing much, or just walking around the space station. He hits people. Yeah. He shoots people. He doesn't miss like the stormtroopers. He fights. He can fight, and his weapon's pretty awesome as well. Which links to Zeb.
Yeah, that's the weapon we're talking about. He actually killed an honor guard or something, didn't he?
Yeah, he killed quite a lot of Zeb's people, I think, which is sort of alluded to.
So, but yeah, and just a couple of side characters, because I'm sure they're going to be brought up very shortly anyway. Commander Oresco and Taskmaster Grint, which is both voiced by David Shaughnessy. These guys were just side bumbling officers of the Empire.
They were there for comedy. That's really.
I wouldn't say comedy, but they were the brunt of the rebels. Basically, they were the front line. They were the ones that were always getting, humbugged by the rebels. So that was kind of You got to mention them because they're going to be mentioned, I'm sure, in this review.
Okay.
And finally, the Inquisitor, voiced by Jason Isaacs. Simply the Inquisitor, no name. And we'll start with, I know, Bobby, I know you want to get your teeth into this bad boy, but let's just ask the Canadian what he thinks about it. So, Johnny, what do you think, mate?
I like his mysteriousness. As you said, just the Inquisitor. He appears, for me, he appears slightly to be the same race as Darth Maul. Like from not necessarily with the spikes or the horns coming out of his head, but
he's not. He is a different race.
Yeah, he's actually from Utapau. You know, in episode 3, the world with giant holes in, where Grievous was hiding out.
Yeah,
he's from that planet.
Where the general gets killed.
I can see the long faces now. I can see it. Yeah. With the really weird headdresses
and the weird sort of teeth that look like they've never been brushed in a million years.
he's definitely you really see. I saw him as evil right from the beginning. But the one thing that was a bit interesting was they don't really show him as a Jedi or a Sith Lord right away. They don't show he has powers to move things. That they develop him throughout the show where when he first comes on, you don't really see all that. You just see that he has a lightsaber. Is he an actual Sith Lord? Don't know yet.
Well, he's not a Sith Lord.
It's not actually explained. It's not actually explained what he is.
And I love that they don't explain things, because half of a series can be wasted on just explaining where we are in this world.
Well,
it's not important.
No.
So that's what I like about him, is that he's the Inquisitor. He's not really explained. He's just you have things that you know about the bad guys in Star Wars, and he's given that role. So you don't need anything.
He was talking about exposition, Razz. I mean, look at the prequel trilogy. Most of those films are taken up with exposition. I mean,
wasted.
Yeah, exactly.
Wasted.
So, but the Inquisitor, what a brilliant voice as well. Brilliant.
Yeah, Jason Isaacs. No, we need a bad guy. Jason Isaacs, that'll do.
There we are. I mean, it's so low, but it's just evil as well. And he's just a classic villain. And he reminds me a lot of Darth Maul with his sort of dual-wielding lightsaber that also spins.
Yeah.
It's slightly weird, that.
I wouldn't feel comfortable with that, to be honest.
No.
I would chop something off. I would skin my knee or something.
Yeah, especially if you've got it in your pocket and you activate it by accident.
Oh, no, I wouldn't have it in my pocket.
No, that really wouldn't. But, yeah, also, it was originally stated when Rebels began that there is many Inquisitors. There isn't just one. There's quite a few Inquisitors around the galaxy, which kind of leads to... What else is about these Inquisitors? Like, I'll get on to that more later.
Well, that was... okay, we'll go into that more later. That's cool. Bring that up when we're ready, okay, man?
I will.
So, that's pretty much it for the show. There's some guest characters that come on later, which we will mention as we go into it. But let's just talk about now standout episodes. What's that? Or should we say... no, let's talk about what we don't like about the show. Okay. So what didn't we find? Now, there's only one really for me that I didn't like about the show. Right. And I'm talking about the show in general. I don't mean, I don't like it in this episode when such a thing happens. No, I'm not bothered about that. I'm talking about the show in general that happens every time or something like that. And what I mean by that is the theme tune, the opening credit, the opening...
Really? You don't like that?
I think it's cheesy as hell.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Now, I liked the last two episodes where there wasn't any music. It just came up. The thing, and that was it. Because it was getting on with the story. It just kind of... No, I didn't like it. I didn't... That's my taste, though. But it just kind of puts you out the scene. And it doesn't really match what it's supposed to be. It's... Nah.
I disagree with you to a certain extent. I mean, the piece of music they use for the opening is wrong. It shouldn't be there. But if you listen to the full actual theme song for the show, it is actually a really good piece of music. They've just chosen a really awkward bit to use in the opening.
Absolutely, that's what I'm talking about. I don't mean... God, it's John Williams. It's his stuff. It's magical. It's amazing.
Well, actually...
They just used the wrong bit, I think.
Quite a lot of the soundtrack, I was going to say this earlier, the soundtrack of the show for me is brilliant, because quite a lot of your classic John Williams themes in the show have been redone slightly, retweaked. They've been given more energy for the new show for a younger audience, and it's kind of uplifted them a bit. And the same with the opening.
We'll go more into the music later. Let's hear what you don't like in general about the show. There's something there that you don't like.
The main thing for season 1 was that until the final couple of episodes, there weren't really an overarching plot. It was kind of, you have one episode and then another, and they were very much standalone episodes until you were introduced to certain characters, and then suddenly it started to become an underarching theme.
It's kind of a thing that they tend to do though with shows.
It is
isn't
true.
It?
It's true. I mean,
they have an overall arc of the story which is quite faint. What's brought to the what's brought forward is the actual story in that episode, and then as it comes up to the finale of the season, they tend to bring the last couple of episodes in together and bring the main arc of the story up to the front, so that you actually bring it all into perspective.
1 second. There's a dog barking outside. It's pissing me off.
Okay. Go on, John. Go on, John. What are you saying?
Season 1 is a lot of character development, and that was something that had to be done. You had to see Ezra go through things, and like getting training, discovering Jedi, get your lightsaber, do all the things. There's like a checklist, or how do you get this character to the end of the series, so that when you do introduce the heavy elements, the elements that bind everything together, he's actually going to be ready to be a rebel and get through the stuff that they're gonna put him into, the events that are gonna start to happen. But I can say that one of the things that ground on me through the whole first 15, 16 episodes was the recurring theme of Chopper, Zeb, Ezra doing the fighting, doing the scrapping.
Yeah.
I understood that there was that kind of thing, there was always the tension there, but they're always hitting each other and smacking each other, and it wasn't necessarily that hitting, but it felt like a Warner Brothers cartoon where you get Wile E. Coyote slapstick. And you get slapstick and stuff. You get like everyone into a giant dust ball, and all you see is fists popping out and stuff, and it got to a point where it was like, all right, you're wasting time. You don't need to include that element in this episode. Set that aside. Show me more about what I really want to see. Because I was hooked every week, wanting to see more. And this was like 5 minutes out of that wanting to see more. It's like, I'll just fast forward a little bit here, kind of feeling. And I don't like that feeling of wanting to fast forward.
Okay.
No. See, for me, I only watched sort of most of the series the other day. I sort of caught up. Because I watched it when it originally came out, but then I watched most of it in one bulk. And for me, I didn't really have that problem because I watched it in bulk. But I'm sure if you did watch it on a weekly basis, that would be something that came up.
I did actually notice the fighting, but it didn't bother me because it progressed. It moved on. Yeah. It took a while, but Zeb and Ezra got understood each other and found a common ground with each other. I can't remember which episode it was now.
Yeah.
But they actually did like a nod kind of thing to each other.
They got sent for fruit.
Yeah, and it was like that's the turning point for their relationship. Yeah. So now they're kind of becoming friends at last.
And I get that, but they're still kids on a show for kids fighting and punching each other and stuff, and it got to be an old gag, and I don't know, suffering through an old gag that just keeps on recurring.
Depends on how you see it. Depends on what happens. Like, for instance, the TIE fighter. I thought that was kind of cool. I was like, what do you mean you haven't got rid of it yet?
Yeah.
What part did you not? No, you haven't got rid of it yet.
Yeah, it's full.
It's that kind of thing. It was actually kind of cool, and then it swapped over. We'll come back to that later. But it's scenarios like that, and it's like, oh yeah, I kind of like that. It puts a smile on my face. It's not hilarious, but it works. It's a bit of humour. Yeah. You've got to do that.
You also have to sort of think about how this series is targeted towards, what age group as well.
Yeah.
It's quite different from what Clone Wars by the end of the series was targeted towards, because Clone Wars started off like this, and then towards the end it did get more mature as it went on, but because this is still the first season of Rebels, it's still starting out.
This is also my dislike of Chopper coming through, where it's just he's a jerk through the entire thing, and I don't suffer jerks for very long, so to see him just be a jerk the entire time, it's like, all right, fine. Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about what we did like. So we talked about what we loved about the show and things like that, but let's talk a bit more specific. And we were talking, Bobby, a minute ago about the music, and this is something that I actually wanted to play out in my standout episodes, but I decided to go on somewhere else with. But that was the thing that really made me fall in love with this show from the get-go. And I think I mentioned it to you before, was in episode 1, and Ezra's on his own. He's on the rooftop and he's watching over the Empire, and I think he's just got some fruit and he got away from them, and he's kind of patting himself on the back and he's all happy. And then he felt something, and he's had these feelings before, but he doesn't know what they are, but he's had this feeling before, and straight away the strings come in. Da 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 da. da 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 da, and it's like, oh, that's John Williams. Oh, that's the scene when Ben first told Luke what the Force was, and it's what I call the theme tune to the Force, mysteriousness of it all, and it was like, oh, and throughout the show you'd hear this,
especially when
like
sort of the pacing of the show slowed down. You'd hear that then.
Had to slow down for that kind of thing. Yeah, absolutely. And the music is absolutely brilliant. Yeah, it's John Williams' score. It's been rejigged for TV. That works for me still. It's still good.
Yeah.
So I didn't know about Ralph McQuarrie until I knew Ralph McQuarrie. I know who Ralph McQuarrie is. Thank you very much.
I think you should.
The point I'm getting at is I didn't realise on how much this show was influenced by the art, and I find that wonderful because I'm looking at it and going, yes, because I saw this stuff and it was like, whoa, this looks great, blah blah blah. I'm not going to take over. I'm going to let someone else go chime in. Let's hear Razz. Razz, what do you like? Because Rob's got about 30 things on his mind what he loves about this show.
Well, there's going to be two things.
I did the music.
Two things that I touch on. The first one that really stood out to me was really funky weaponry. I've never seen a laser slingshot before, and I was quite happy to see things that were in the show, like a lightsaber that comes apart and becomes two parts you have to have on your belt, so you don't necessarily recognize that you've got a lightsaber on your belt.
Yeah.
A character that uses explosives, a staff that was we've kind of seen that staff before that has like the electrocuted double-ended stuff, but
a rifle as well.
But when Ezra develops his lightsaber, where it's actually his bolter, his kind of gun thing, but it's also the lightsaber as well. That was a unique perspective. It's not. I mean, everything in Star Wars that I've seen, they've always tried to up their game each time they've created something new. The Holy Trinity in the back in the beginning didn't really change the lightsaber, but they started changing the lightsaber in the prequels, and then now in these ones they're changing it a little bit more. It's just that unique perspective. And I have to reference Clone Wars because one of my favorite episodes of Clone Wars, and things I loved about that was the episode where you see the Padawan learners go and get their crystal, and actually make their own lightsabers. And I love the Wookiee lightsaber that's made out of wood. It was quite interesting to see that particular one. So to see Ezra make this bolting lightsaber and the weaponry in this one, I really enjoyed that. That was the first thing.
Can I just put in there with just that lightsaber? The fact that lightsaber is taken, right? Whatever you say, this is fact. That lightsaber was taken from Ulysses 31. Okay, Ulysses, the weapons there, they had blasters that looked exactly like that. So you just shot them like lasers, and then the lightsaber would pop out, and his shield, energy shield, would come up, like Captain America's new one had for a while, like that kind of thing. But that, of course, was taken from the lightsaber in Star Wars. So it's kind of like come back home and giving it a nod to that as well. So it was very, very cool, I thought. I geeked out when I first saw Ezra's lightsaber with that. But what was the second thing you were saying?
The second thing I really enjoy about this series is the mystery. We don't know things yet, and it's the journey that we're taking. About we know that the Jedi are no more, and this is kind of like the remnant, and things you get to explore the things, all these hidden temples and these places that they're kind of things are still there, and the mystery and that little, I don't know what it's called. It's intrigue. I'm interested in where they're going to take things, because things are hidden now. Things aren't. There isn't any Jedi Council. There isn't a building or a temple that you can go to where you can see everybody and things. It's mysterious, and I like that about the show.
So, Bobby, what have you got, man? What have you got that you like about that?
Firstly, I have to talk about the animation, because for me, it's much more refined than Clone Wars. I mean, you can see that they have learnt a hell of a lot from Clone Wars, and Dave Filoni even said that in an interview, that they've taken quite a lot of their learning curves when they made Clone Wars into Rebels.
Because a lot of these guys that did Clone Wars have come over
now, yes.
work on Rebels now.
And you can definitely see that there's a huge change in the way that characters and ships and just locations are drawn, and it looks so much better and so much refined. That's kind of the first thing. And then the second thing really is the space battles. I have to talk about this because I love space battles, especially in Star Wars. And the angles that they use in Rebels just hell of reminds me of the fight scenes from the original 3 films, especially in A New Hope when the Millennium Falcon's coming under attack by a group of TIE fighters. When you see the Ghost in that same sort of situation, they've tried to use the same angles and the same shots that they did in New Hope, and it just works so well, and it just fills me with childhood excitement again.
Yeah, they're very, very cool. I really do like it. So let's go over to the last couple of things now. Let's talk about our least favourite episode. Okay. With a special mention for me, I wanted to just go over one thing I forgot to mention, and I needed to mention now. R2-D2 and C-3PO turning up.
I didn't mind that.
I did care for that, to be honest. But apart from that, everything else has been hunky-dory. But let's talk about our least favourite episodes.
Should we talk about our favourite first? Because we haven't actually.
No. Let's end on a bonus. Let's end on an up. Yeah.
Cool.
So, Rob, give us your least favourite.
God, there was so many good episodes of season 1. It's quite hard for me, but I think one that really stands out is, and I know we were talking about this earlier, but it's the episode where Ezra and Zeb have to collect a type of fruit for Hera, and they're sort of put into a situation where they have to work together. And it's kind of a comedic episode. You see them going to all sorts of lengths just to get this fruit, and it's an okay episode, but it's just not up to the same standard of storytelling as I feel other episodes are in the series. Just something weren't right about it. It was too much sort of slapstick comedy and not enough actual sort of meaning and plot to it. It just didn't. I didn't like it, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and Johnny, what was yours, mate? What's your least favourite?
It's a bit interesting perspective, going back and thinking about the entire series. And there's only one real reason why I'm picking this particular episode, is because I don't like suffering fools, and I don't like suffering through jerks. So there's the episode called Idiot's Array, where they have Lando Calrissian come back, and
okay.
I understand why they're taking us through this process, but it was just like, the ending where he's, I don't know what to call him. I'm gonna get a lot of flack, but I don't like Lando. I don't. It just he's just too much of a schmooze ball. Where it's like so much grease that you can feel it like dripping, and it's like
Okay, so let's go from that to our standout episode, our favourite episode, and I'm gonna bounce back to you, Razz, with this one. What was your favourite episode, my friend?
Path of the Jedi. Path of the Jedi. It's basically Ezra and Kanan going into a secret temple and finding out more development about how to be a Jedi, and he comes out with a Force crystal, and he makes his lightsaber. Perfect episode.
Plus,
just perfect.
Yoda was in it, voiced by Frank Oz.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, those moments, it had all the right beats. It had the mystery. It had the what's going on here, and even the darkness, all the kind of like ghost atmosphere stuff where I got lost in it enough where I'm feeling like I'm starting to ramble over myself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, Rob, what was your favourite, mate?
There's two, because I couldn't narrow it down. There is two,
okay.
And one of them is a two-parter, so I apologise firstly.
That's okay, brother.
The first one is Out of Darkness. I thought it was a fantastic episode.
That was a good episode.
Focused on Sabine and Hera just going to an abandoned Rebel Republic base and actually finding that They pretty much they can't deal with these creatures that are there, and it's how they have to work together, because we find out in that episode that Sabine doesn't trust Hera, and she's not really into the whole rebellion and doesn't really believe in it. And it's that episode is you're finding out how she's putting her faith in Hera and how those two are working together, and it's just a really strong episode for the characters. Yeah. And to be honest, out of the whole of season 1, it's the one that stands out as being, this is the episode where Sabine and Hera got the most development, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
And then the other one is Empire Day and Gathering Force. Now, I loved Empire Day. Not only did we get to see that gorgeous prototype TIE, which then appeared in the finale as well, but it's just exploring Ezra's past. We actually got to see his house. We actually got to see a member of a friend of his family's, Tebow, whatever his name is, I can't pronounce.
Yeah, Tebow. Yeah.
Yeah, and we also got to find out that now Hera knows about the fate of his parents, something that she hasn't actually told him yet, which is interesting. And then, of course, with Gathering Force, that carried on to the point where you get that one of the best scenes for me in the whole of season 1, where Ezra is controlling a giant beast because he's falling ever closer to the dark side when Kanan is fighting the Inquisitor. And it just shows how close a Jedi is at certain times that they could actually fall to prey to the dark side. It's a fantastic moment, and it just makes that episode stand out above all else.
Well, I have to say the standout thing for me in this series, it's kind of a joint thing, but the one that sticks out the most is because of a certain scene. And it's call to action, which is episode 13, and it's when, I'm going to say it, boys. In fact, we'll talk about it in a minute, because this is the start of the actual three-part ending of the show. And if you don't mind, I'll start it off with the first scene in the first part, and it's Grand Moff Tarkin. Absolutely brilliant. This guy, Grand Moff Tarkin, is voiced by Steven Stanton, and he comes on and he gives, first of all, she's not the governor, she is a councilman, isn't she? She's a councillor who was taking over for the missing governor. I don't know where the governor's gone, but anyway, she gets a drill in. Then Agent
Callus gets a talk.
Yeah, gets kind of a drilling down, but it's more to the Inquisitor than anything else. And it's an absolute brilliant scene when the counselor says she's a Jedi, and he says, I know the Jedi, and do you know what happened to them? They all died, every single one of them. And it's just an absolutely brilliant scene. And Steven Stanton actually puts on a really good impression of Sir Peter Cushing, because he was like the way he enunciates and articulates his words and enunciates every word and breaks it down, so he doesn't say every, he says every word, just like Peter Cushing does or did. And it was just absolutely brilliant. I loved it. The whole 3 episodes together with Grand Moff Tarkin was absolutely brilliant. This is why we liked Star Wars, because of Grand Moff Tarkin. No one knew what a Grand Moff was. Shoot, Peter Cushing didn't know what a Grand Moff Tarkin was. That was the first question that came out of his head when he was talking to George Lucas. What's a Grand Moff? Because I have no idea. But absolutely brilliant. So after that scene, it's wow.
Well, I just have to add something onto that, because the voice actor is brilliant. He portrays this really cold, sort of dark sort of sense to Tarkin, and you know that he has a hatred of the Jedi because of his appearance in Clone Wars. But what I was going to say is the scene that directly follows that, for me, was kind of the oh crap moment. This is where Rebels is really actually turning the pace up, and it's when you see the death of Grits.
Grints and
Recco. That scene is just oh crap. You know?
Yeah, that's when it gets oh shit.
Up until this point, the show has been. I mean, yes, you're killing stormtroopers who are now actually just normal
faceless.
Men. Well, they're actually now normal guys. They're not clones because of a retcon, but
they're all faceless.
Exactly.
You see, so
you don't really see many people die up until this point, and then it's just like, oh crap. Yeah, things are getting real now.
Yeah.
So And it's the way they die as well. They get beheaded, which
Yeah, it's awful.
it is, especially for a Disney show that's on a kids' channel.
Yeah, it's like Disney, 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 Disney,
Well,
Disney, Disney.
One thing that I can say about Disney I'm happy about in all universes that they've taken over, because they've purchased Marvel, and they've purchased I think it was LucasArts that owned the rights to Star Wars. They haven't really interfered with making something more family friendly. It's like X-Men are still X-Men, Star Wars is still Star Wars. They're not changing things to be Disney.
Yeah.
They didn't interfere, and I really enjoyed that about this series. Is that, yes, owned by Disney, we can see that Disney is written all over the place. They could write Disney on a Stormtrooper helmet on the side, had like Mickey Mouse ears. But I was quite glad that they're not making anything like that in the show.
Oh God!
It didn't interfere. It didn't make something specifically lighter.
I had so many fears when Disney actually brought up Lucas, because oh God, I could just see Mickey Mouse running around with a lightsaber, and the next lot of Star Wars films be all Disneyfied. But luckily, so far, that hasn't happened with Rebels. Whether it will happen with Episode 7, I'm still on the fence about.
Well,
I honestly didn't think that. I was actually pleased that they had taken it.
Yeah,
I had faith in them because they've done so well.
I gotta say, this is probably the most stressful moment of my Star Wars fandom. I have one of these moments where it's like, thank God they've gotten this thing away from George Lucas.
Yeah,
because George Lucas was just rude. I don't know. This is where the rant in me starts to want to come out, where it's like,
let's not do it yet. Let's not do it yet.
Hold off for another day about the
Star Wars. Come on now.
Hold off.
Okay, so we've had that scene. We had the scene where they were actually destroyed. Bobby, you want to take over this, mate, and go on to the last of the.
Now we should really talk about the finale, really, because.
Yeah, this is what we're talking about. This
yeah,
is what we're talking about, brother.
Wow. Yeah. Where should we start? Really, I think. The first sort of 2 episodes of the finale for me were good, but nothing really major happened in them. It was when we got to Fire in the Galaxy.
We should talk about the last 3 episodes, because that's where the actual story starts.
Yeah, alright then. But I don't really have much to say about the 2 before Fire in the Galaxy, so you two take over, and then when we get to it,
okay, so we got the episode 3, which is the call to action. So Grand Moff Tarkin turns up and kills off the 2 bumbling officers.
Yeah.
And the plan is, the way they want to do this, the rebels where they want to do this, is put a message out, actually take over a communications tower, one of the major ones, so that they can put a message out and tell everyone the truth. Okay? And tell them what and how they're suffering, and put it across a few sectors as far as they can to start the word, because that's where it all starts, isn't it? Okay, and so they get to this. It's a very, the long story short is they get to the communications tower, and that's when it really gets good for me. To be honest with you, I mean the scout droid. They go and actually reconnaissance the area, and a scout droid is a probe droid is deployed.
Yep.
And
just hearing the sound effects from the probe droid was.
Oh yeah, it's just thinking straight back. Empire, absolutely, it's really really good. That's, by the way, very good, Bobby. By the way, I might just get you to do that just for as a sound bite when we need an Imperial probe droid.
Hey,
but anyway, and also actually moving in onto the actual base, I thought that was amazing what they did. It was really cool, and the rebels just moved in and took over and got to the top and plugged everything in, and it was all good. And the fact that Kanan said, "Go guys, I'll be right behind you," kind of thing, and the final shot of Ezra seeing Kanan was his back, and he saw the enemy coming towards Kanan. And Kanan just turned to shut the door, and that was the last thing he saw of him. And then he stood there defiant with his lightsaber, and Agent what's his face? Callus. What is his name?
Callus. Agent Callus.
Callus.
Yeah.
Agent Callus turns up, and he's still like defiant. But then the Inquisitor turns up, and he just straight away takes out the lock. He thinks, right, that's it. I'm dead. I'm not going. I'm not joining them. So he takes the lockout straight away, and it's like he's sealed his own fate, and he's accepted it as well. Until the Inquisitor turned up, he had a chance still. But as soon as the Inquisitor was there, he's like, right, that's it. I'm just going to get it on. And he actually got taken, and it was good. It was like, it's real now. It's getting on. Moff Tarkin's there, and he realizes that that message that's been sent out is dangerous. So he takes out the communication tower.
Yeah,
he knows he's taken out his own communications along the planet. But it's worth it.
He doesn't mess around. It's just like, as the message is being transmitted and as Kane is being taken away, you're just like, so what's Tarkin going to do about this? All of a sudden the whole tower comes down. You're like, oh crap, wow, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tarkin means business.
Absolutely. So we move from there. Have you got anything to say about the episode there, Razz? Are you okay?
It's something where you're going through the exposition of how things are progressing. It's like when you move into the parts of the story that are coming up, like they had to leave Kanan behind. They had to leave him to his fate. All of a sudden, you're getting into the areas that are connecting to the first episode, or not the first episode, the Holy Trinity. Like then you're getting into A New Hope, where you see, not even New Hope. What am I getting on about? The torturing. It's something to say that now that
That's in Resolve, that one.
Yeah, now that Moff Tarkin is there, you start to see Kanan being tortured, and you see that his choice was why he made the sacrifice to. It's more those darker elements of the story that start to tie into where I remember Star Wars from. So it's triggering all that nostalgia, but it's triggering all those things in the pit of your stomach. It's like, no, stop! Don't. We gotta rescue Kanan. And this is where, if they had shown anything to do with Chopper being a jerk, I would have punched the screen. Because this is like, all right, forget Chopper. Don't waste time with the plot. Actually, show me a really good episode. And I was hooked every week when this was coming out.
Okay, so then we move on to episode 14 with Rebel Resolve, and Hera has told the guy, everyone. She got in touch with a character that's been going through the show. This character has been mentioned through the show, and we actually see a vision.
We see a hologram
of a cloaked figure called Fulcrum. Now we've heard Fulcrum been mentioned a couple of times in the show. First time was just between Hera and Kanan, and that was it. No one else knew of Fulcrum until things developed and they found out about it.
Episode with Sabine and Hera when it was on that river place.
Yeah. So then that's when Fulcrum came out, and the whole crew knew about her, or him. We didn't know at the time. And then this is when Fulcrum, as we can tell, it's a woman, tells the Hera that they have to go into hiding because Ezra is very important. Okay, she didn't want Kanan to do what he was doing, which was being a symbol of hope. She wanted him to go into hiding, but he's got to go into hiding now because of it. And so she tells the crew, "They said we're not going after him. He is wasting. He's wasting his sacrifice by going after him." So they go, "Oh, okay." But that's when Ezra takes over and goes, "You know what? We're gonna pull the wool from her the rug from under her, and we'll go ourselves," kind of thing. So he basically gets some intel on where Kanan is
from a character,
and that's
who's quite
yeah.
good, isn't it?
The one thing I wanted to mention about this though was the droid that they got hold of, because the way they did it was they got hold of I can't remember the dealer. Can't remember his name.
He's a regular character, but no,
he's a character who's been in a couple of times, an incoming character that comes in a couple of times, and they actually bring out. They say like, have you ever wondered why Kanan was being chased by an Inquisitor of all people? It's because he's a Jedi, and then that's when he finds out. And he says, "Look, you could have if you help me out now, you'll have a favor of a Jedi." And that's when he gives them the hand of, because of the communications are down because of the tower being taken out. They're using droids, astromech droids, to move information around. So they get hold of an astromech droid, and they get Chopper and repaint him to look like it. And this is the scene that I have a problem with.
Okay.
Because they get to the... It's not a problem, but it's just like... They've got to get onto the ship. Okay? And so they find out... They have to find out where they are, where Kanan is. So they get hold of this droid, capture him. They takes his place, painted all up, and he gets on the ship, and he goes straight to where he's supposed to, the other astromech droid is supposed to go, and plugs in. Now, there's a tech there who deals with astromech droids and doesn't bat an eyelid that this astromech droid is not the same model as the other ones. Why have we got an older model doing it? Why is he? Why are you putting down records into the thing? He's just looking at him, just watching him do it, and he's not doing a thing about it. And he's like, what?
You should know by now, Jim, that most of the people in the Imperial Army are just idiots. They can't be relied upon. Why do you think the Empire was defeated in Episode 6?
Yeah,
it was all
I would agree with the same thing, because I half expected him to be like cross-eyed, like, sorry sir, doing my best. Who made that? Yeah, it's like, come on, man.
But yeah, it's just like, as soon as you come in, it's like, whoa, what's this? This ain't one of our models. Get it out! You know, kind of thing. But they actually find the location on where Kanan is, and he's on an Imperial Star Destroyer within a fleet of Star Destroyers on Mustafar.
See, I'm going to touch on this in a minute when we actually talk about the final episode, but Mustafar, of all places.
Let's move on to that now. The last line that was said in that episode as well is, Kanan told me Mustafar is where the Jedi go to die. I thought that's really cool.
Yeah, that's cool. But actually, in the episode, they never once actually went onto Mustafar. They never went on the planet once. And to be honest, like, for me, it could have really been any planet that they was orbiting.
So we're moving on to Fire Across the Galaxy now, episode 15. And go on, Rob. Let's go with your thing. Don't get ahead of yourself now. Let's start at the beginning.
Right, I will.
Tell everyone what we're thinking.
I've got a lot to talk about. But just before this episode was aired, there was a hell of a lot of hype for this. In terms of Star Wars fans and just in terms of people who were watching the series.
Yeah.
It was a huge episode that people were planning to watch. And I too was really excited for this. I don't know about you two. Were you?
Yeah.
It was quite... But no, the opening for it I loved. The bit with Sabine where she takes out the whole sort of squad of TIEs that are sitting on Lothal. And you know what? It's because it links back to a little short that they did before the first episode comes out that was called Art Attack, where it's Sabine attacking the actual same facility. And in that little bit, it's where some of the stormtroopers who remember the attack from last time actually reference it. They go,
I was wondering about that. I was like, I don't remember, but she's known as the artist and that.
And she does exactly what she did in this little short that she does in the final episode at the beginning. So they're like, oh, not again, and they just it's pretty awesome.
The beginning of what you're just talking about with taking out the TIE fighters also had this little nod to the stormtroopers not to be able to hit anything at all, and you see Sabine doing all these. She's hanging on, and she's doing a wide stance. She's like, look how big a target I am. I know you can't hit me. And it was just this little like, yeah, man.
Yeah. I hadn't seen that one, but now that makes more sense. But basically, guys, what I'm trying to say is, in case none of you have seen it and you're not interested in the thing, but they go to take a ship that they could use to sneak within. You know, like the Imperial shuttle in Jedi?
Yeah.
That kind of thing. But with a bit of a larger ship. These ships, I like this ship, by the way. I like this ship. These are the ones that can carry up to 4 TIE fighters attached to it. And I like that. We first saw that in this. We've not seen it before. And I do like it. No, we haven't, Rob. I know I can see you. See the smoke coming out of your ears.
No, see, I'm thinking because a ship very similar to that in terms of its animation model was seen in Clone Wars, like briefly. It may have been painted differently.
No, you're lying.
Sure. But let the people who's watching this video decide for us. They can comment.
So this ship gets taken, and while they're taken out, they take out the TIE fighters that are there as well. And so they talk about they want to get onto the Star Destroyer, okay, and leave a little present there, but they want something small. And so Zeb and Ezra are like, oh yeah, do you remember that TIE fighter you told us to just crash? Says, well, some parts of that's not quite true. War parts. We didn't crash it at all. We actually kept it. I was like, okay, I should be angry. Wait, okay, let's use that. And then Ezra
and Sabine, they kind of
look at each other as well, and they went like,
yeah.
we can't. We couldn't really use it. Why not? And then Zeb goes, yeah, why not? He says, well, and they move to it, and it's just like this brightly coloured, sprayed on.
It's the tie-dye fighter.
It's the tie-dye. Yeah, it's the tie-dye fighter.
Oh, and you know that Hasbro is going to market that for all of its work.
Oh, do you know what? They could, the tie-dye TIE fighter.
Yeah, they're going to release a TIE fighter that's painted up like that, you know.
Someone's going to do it anyway. But I love the fact that when they actually deploy it and it lands, and he goes, that's not military standard.
Goes,
I kind of like it.
That's the thing about the stormtroopers in Rebels. They actually have little comedy moments amongst themselves as well.
Yeah,
which is something we haven't really touched upon, but they're also quite cool, considering they're just sort of like an army with no faces and they don't really have any identity. They still have their little quirks that appear in episodes.
Yeah, so they land their TIE fighter on, and Sabine activates the EMPs that are like they've just filled this TIE fighter with loads of EMPs, and it shuts down the Star Destroyer, including all the stormtroopers. They're all KO'd because of their equipment that they got on them. That shorted out on them, and so then they move in from the side, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm juiced, pumped up right now. And I'm like, they've just taken out Tarkin's Star Destroyer. Yep. And they're like, we've got lost power, and he goes, move to auxiliary power kind of thing. And they're moving in straight away. But then the officer, everyone's breaking around. It's like, oh my god, what are we going to do? Oh no! Oh no! And then Tarkin's just like, don't worry yourselves. This is all going to stop now. Because we're getting our thingy, and straight away he looks out and there's like shuttles coming in, filled with stormtroopers. And the next thing, what they're coming? The reinforcers are turning up. God, that was quick. Don't worry, they won't find us in this big place. And then suddenly, round the corner, there they are, kind of thing. And he shoots them. It's brilliant. He says, there they are. He shoots.
You have to feel sorry.
I thought it was comical. The thing that reminded me of that, the thing that when I saw that scene was the bit when in Robot Chicken.
Oh right, oh yeah.
And he goes, there's one set for stun, and she, Princess Leia kills her. And he goes, he said set for stun. It just reminded me of that. That was all.
Or the bit in like episode 4 where Han and Chewie are running after some stormtroopers. They turn around the corner. There's a whole room of them. And they just run.
Yeah. So very cool. So so they free. They managed to get out. Cutting in a long story short, they get Kanan out, and then this is when Kanan and the Inquisitor face each other off, and it's brilliant because Kanan's the Inquisitor's still got Kanan's lightsaber, so Kanan says to Ezra, "Can I have yours?" And he chases after him, and suddenly he just starts shooting at the Inquisitor.
No, I gotta say something at this point.
Go on.
I think in the background, this is me just having an interesting thought about Kanan. Kanan saw just how cool Ezra's lightsaber was when he first created it. It's like, oh man, I gotta play with that. So I imagine Kanan thinking about, man, I gotta make all these strategies about like I'm gonna shoot, and then I do this move and the parry because I remember the lessons from my teacher. I said, how am I gonna use this thing? It's like I gotta find the first excuse to borrow that lightsaber. He's like, can I use that lightsaber? and so I just picture in my mind, he's got this plan. He had this all planned out. I was like, yeah, I'm going to do these moves. And it was just brilliant. Shoot this, parry that way.
Because the thing about it was up until this point, every time he's gone up against the Inquisitor, he's lost.
Yeah.
Every time. And at this point, he's gone like, give me a lightsaber, and takes after and starts shooting at him, and straight away the Inquisitor's on the back foot. And then Ezra's like, why didn't I use it like that? He's like, because you're a kid, he's still learning. But yeah, it's absolutely brilliant. He switches to lightsaber, starts parrying and stuff, and then goes bang, bang, bang again. It's
that duel though. It was amazing.
Yeah, he's been thinking for weeks about how he's going to use this really cool weapon. And I was like, that kid doesn't know what to do with that thing.
Yeah, that's it.
Is it just me though, or throughout the whole of that duel, it just reminded me of the Duel of Fates from Episode 1? I know it's prequel, but when they're fighting Darth Maul on Naboo, the whole background to it.
No, it did remind me of that, absolutely.
And even the music and the tempo that went with it, it was just definitely so awesome. And I mean, Kanan dual wielding, wow, that's just.
Well, the thing about that scene from Episode 1 is the fact that that's the best fight scene. I think is the best fight scene in all the Star Wars films.
Really?
Yeah, the Darth Maul fight. It's the best one.
Wow.
Lucas was an idiot killing Maul.
Thank God,
which is kind of interesting. Why? And this goes back into what I tried to say, but it's like, thank goodness that Disney has wrestled this away from Lucas.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And they've put that kind of epic ending to it, where it's like this big man battle. And the fact that what got me about this got me thinking for a minute, only for a brief minute, but it was like when the Inquisitor, his fate.
That was brilliant.
When he actually killed himself, he just leapt. He's hanging off the thing, and he says, "You don't know what you've done," and he just lets him sit. He just lets go and die and goes to his death.
There are worse things than death.
That's it.
Yeah, that's it. There's worse things than death.
Oh, he said a line before that as well. You don't know what you've unleashed or started.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Those last words though, they're haunting. They really are. And to be honest, like, we might as well talk about it now. I really didn't think that the Inquisitor would get out of the series by the end of season 1.
No, I didn't either.
It was quite.
No, I thought it was kind of a coup that they got Jason Isaacs on the show. Because he's a big film star now. You know, how is he going to be doing this? But I can see it was just a temporary thing.
See, I want him to be dead in a way because of what happens at the end, but I can guarantee that probably a couple of seasons on from now they'll bring him back. So
I don't think they will, mate. I don't think they will.
Well, I hope they don't, but you never know with Lucas, do you? And
I do think that they will bring another Inquisitor along.
Yeah, there will be Inquisitors, but that one is dead.
Yeah.
Okay.
That one's definitely dead. But it has to be because of who turned up at the end of this.
Before we get ahead of ourselves.
No, I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to steal your thunder, brother. Don't worry about it.
We have missed a huge bit of the duel as well. The bit where you think Ezra's killed, Ezra's dead. That bit, for me, was just whoa, because at that point, Kanan... You would think that any normal Jedi at that point, losing someone so sort of close to him, would turn to the dark side. And you can see, you think he's going to turn. He's sort of crouching on the floor, looking really sort of sad. But then he just gets up and has this weird sort of blank expression. And he goes, he's really one with the Force. And it's brilliant. You hardly ever see that in Star Wars, somebody becoming this close to the Force. And from that point onwards, he's actually winning the fight, and that's how he defeats the Inquisitor.
Yeah. And we also got to think about what happens after that, because they rescue Kanan, they get off the ship, they manage to get out, but it looks like they're in for it. But then suddenly, the Ghost turns up, and then more ships, and something we forgot to actually mention. I apologise, ladies and gentlemen. I apologise. This did need to be mentioned earlier on, and I forgot to mention it. Was the fact that. The episode, I think it was episode 3, which was the droids in danger or something.
Droids in distress.
Droids in distress, thank you. Which was R2-D2 and C-3PO. It was a little bit weak. I didn't like them turning up. I didn't want them to be there anymore. But bless them, they just want to give Anthony Daniels a job, don't they? But it gave leeway to Bail Organa turning up.
Oh,
It was a segue for Bail Organa to actually be on the show.
the end of that
To show him.
episode.
And we needed that. We needed to see that so you could see that he's in that universe. Because at the end here, we see...
3 blockade runners suddenly jump out of hyperspace with the ghost.
yeah.
And that
With the
bit,
ghosts.
that bit for me, before that, you see that a whole Star Destroyer blow up. For me, that's like, oh my word. And then you have 3 rebel, or what was soon to become, rebel blockade runners just jumping out of hyperspace. And it just took me back to my childhood of watching the original trilogy. That opening bit of episode 4, when you just see the blockade run and then the huge Star Destroyer coming over the top. I was a kid again. I was a child.
Yeah. It was very, very cool. What was your thoughts on that, Razz?
This was the scene that I was waiting for because this was something that I had previous conversation with other people via Facebook, just chatting back and forth about who Fulcrum was. And this was the moment where it's like, oh, more rebels. This is going to be it. Are they going to show it? And I had theories about who this person was, who was Fulcrum, and everyone was saying we'd like them to be this. Maybe it's this character, and it was it had that specific moment, the specific beat where it was like.
We're just talking about the actual blockade runners and the fleet turning up, as you will.
Yeah,
that's what we're
talking about. That moment was the moment where I tweaked in. It's like they're gonna show it. This is the moment, and I'm on the edge of my seat. Like the rebels are here. Show the character kind of feeling. It's like as I was getting excited because this is they're gonna do it. Like,
go on, tell us, man. They ends up in hyperspace, don't they? And the Imperial ship locks in with the Ghost, and they come back on board, and Fulcrum comes down, and who is it, man? Who is it?
It turns out to be Ahsoka Tano.
Yes!
Yeah.
And
oh god,
voiced by none other than Ash. We've got to point out as well, voiced by none other than Ashley Eckstein, who was the original Ahsoka Tano in Clone Wars.
You do realise that...
I was going to say, the one thing about this is that I totally didn't expect is that I had previous conversation, and this was, I just finished Rebels, and I was looking back at Clone Wars, and I was thinking, man, they've really got to finish up that and actually show where Ahsoka goes. And I wonder if Fulcrum actually going to... What if Fulcrum was Ahsoka and see that moment? And I didn't expect to be right. And I was one of those moments where I was like, I don't want to be the guy. I was like, yes, told you so. I hate that guy. That guy can just go away. But it was one of those moments where I was like, yeah, I said that.
Yeah, and the thing is, the website that I use to watch this stuff has a picture of Ahsoka Tano on it with some guy with an eye patch. Which I was like, oh, who's that? But I know who that is. And it's kind of, I didn't really think of it that much, but it was nice. It's a nice ending. It's a nice thought. And she explains that they're actually a cell.
Yes, I love this.
And there's many cells around the galaxy, around the Galactic Empire, doing the same stuff that they're doing.
And then contact each other is because if a cell gets captured, then they can't reveal the other cells to them. But Hera has known this all along. Again. Yeah,
Hera knows this. I don't think Kanan knew it either.
No, Kanan
didn't know anything about that. He knew Fulcrum was the source of intel and all that, but he didn't know that she's actually running the show.
Also,
she's the beginning of the Rebel Alliance.
I know. Also, you know the moment just beforehand where you have them walking up the stairs and there's all those kind of troops that are sort of in parade there, and then all of a sudden you have the hologram of Bail Organa. For me, at that point, that was such a red herring because you went, wait, Fulcrum's Bail? And then suddenly the hologram comes off and then you actually see who Fulcrum is walking down. But it's just a nice thing that they actually did to just put you off slightly.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this was one of those moments where also, if you kind of twig into it and look at the history of Star Wars and who is in charge of the rebels, or who is influencing the rebels and how they progress through things, is that you see more female characters actually taking the role of the people in charge. You see,
as well, yeah.
I don't remember the name of the lady who
Mon
talks
Mothma.
about many Bothans died to deliver
Yeah,
this
Mon
message.
Mothma.
Mon Mothma.
Yeah, and you see Princess Leia doing it as well. So to see Ahsoka Tano come in, it comes into this interesting thing that the ladies or the women of this universe are the people whom are making sure everyone is organized. And that is an interesting concept to think about, that was actually from the beginning always there.
Yeah, it's something. I don't want to get too much into it as such, but it was a bit of a foobar off George not bringing Mon Mothma into the last episode at least. He should have brought her in the last episode. So well, think about it, mate. She was the beginning of the Rebel Alliance. She was the one who was the leader. She was the politician who could lead, be the front
Yeah, I know, I
to
understand.
to a genuine government.
I understand that.
And so that should have been, that was wasted. They could have used her, and she could have been like, very cool. But that doesn't matter.
So I disagree with that completely, because at this point in time, this first season of Rebels, the Rebel Alliance doesn't really exist at the moment. It's just small cells of rebels that are working in cohesion with each other.
It's not rebels; they're guerrillas.
Exactly, and the Rebel Alliance was formed by Mon Mothma, Akbar. It was a Jedi Knight that I can't remember the name of, who was in exile, and Bail Organa. They were the main founders of the Rebel Alliance, but that hasn't taken place yet, which is
No, not yet.
when we get on to talk about season 2, that's something I will bring up. But I really don't think Mon Mothma should have been introduced. In fact, if she was revealed as Fulcrum, that would have been just crap.
No. You misheard me. I wasn't referring to Mon Mothma being in this show.
Okay,
I was just referring to being in episode 3.
right.
I'm talking about the film.
All right, okay, fair enough.
She's in a deleted scene. Yeah, and you see her in a blink of an eye.
Yeah,
you
but,
see her, and she's mean. That's what I was referring to. I didn't want to get too much into it. Was that she should have been more into the episode 3, so they could see maybe a start of something, or you could actually recognise her and who she is, an important character. But the point I was getting at was, you can see it. Bail Organa, and Mon Mothma were the ones who started the political side to it and become actually a movement. Whereas, as it shows now, Ahsoka Tano must be the Jedi that you're talking about. It probably wasn't at first, but it probably is now.
But
Yeah. So now she's probably the
like
Jedi, and she's the one that starts all the I'm an ex-soldier. Cells are used in other places as well, including terrorists as well. So cells go down. I'm sure you've seen what's that one with that other show with terrorism and stuff. What's that one? Oh God, there's a show and it's all like that. There's like the cells and one goes down, another one comes up, and it's the exact same thing, kind of thing. It's very cool.
Not too worried. This was the moment where seeing Ahsoka coming in as not a political leader, but as more the guerrilla warfare person. She's the guerrilla leader. It's not a rebel alliance yet. It's guerrilla warfare, and it's interesting to see her. And I'm curious about how they're going to develop her character, because in the end of Clone Wars, she was very gritty and very angry.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing, and I don't mean to. I'm probably getting a knock on the door by police tomorrow morning, because I've said this about 3 times. But they're terrorists in the eyes of the government, kind of thing. They are kind of terrorists. They're in cells. They're hitting. They're not doing bombing or anything. They're hitting. They're hitting. Well, yeah, they are. They're hitting military installations and stuff like that, and they're kind of like terrorists, guerrillas, if you will. And yeah, it's the same thing. And I like that. I love the fact that Ahsoka Tano's doing it, because she had the foresight. She was like, in that such a powerful episode, when she leaves, I really liked that, and I thought, oh, Ahsoka's going to be fine, or at least she's not going to be hunted down, kind of thing. There's a silver lining to all this pile of shit, and I love the fact that she's the one that's starting it. I love that, because it's her rebellious streak. She was a rebel right at the beginning. She used to call him Sky Guy, and that was her master. So I like that. She of all the Jedi I could think of, she's perfect for starting this off.
See but for me, it also just raises more questions, which I will talk about when we get onto what we think of season 2. But
Yeah.
it just brings up so many questions. But there is one last thing of the final episode that
We have to, and I was going to leave that for you, mate. I was going to leave that for you. So
Thank you.
Go on, you.
Oh
you
my
do it.
word! Well, after we get the huge reveal of who Fulcrum is, we actually go back to Lothal, and we see an Imperial shuttle coming into the main headquarters of the Empire on the planet. And we see Tarkin coming out, and Callus is saying that there's been rumours of what happened on Mustafar, and there's unrest on the planet, and people see the Empire as being weak. And Tarkin just goes, "We've got a solution to solve our problem." And then you don't see it first, you hear the breathing. And for me, I was just like, oh crap! Things are just going from brilliant to even amazing. And then you see him, Vader, walking out of the shuttle in what I can only describe as a huge sort of love letter to Ralph McQuarrie's original concept for him.
Yeah, because that was the original. Yeah, it looked just like the original Ralph McQuarrie look to it, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was so close to the original piece of concept art. It's unrealistic.
Yeah.
How he never spoke, but you didn't need to. All of the angles of Vader were shot from looking up at him, never a shot looking down. So he had a huge presence despite not saying anything, and it was just a fantastic way to end. And when that scene had finished, there was no music afterwards. It was just silence.
That's it. Yeah.
That had more of an impact than anything.
It should have been. The only thing I'd like to have seen is his breathing carry on.
That would have been amazing. That really would have done. This just goes right. Okay, so we had the Inquisitive season 1. Now we got Vader. Wow. Yeah.
Okay, so that's the finale, and let's just go over to what we'd like to see in season 2. Now, Bobby, I know you've got some plans, my friend. I know you've got some ideas.
I'll let Razz go first because I'm interested.
I'll let Razz go first, and then I've got one.
Oh, cool.
And then I'll let you take over. Okay, so Johnny, what's your thoughts, man? What would you like to see in season 2?
It's such a tough question for me because I'm trying to look at this with an open mind. That there's almost some things that I don't want to see is that I don't want to see the series start to focus on Vader. I want it to stay with Ezra. So now that they've got this wonderful setup, it's a very big launching pad for where will they go from here. How will they develop things? I definitely want to see Ahsoka in battles. I want to see her take more of a general role, not like a general like in general, but general like 5 stars on her thing.
I understand.
She's experienced now. She's taking the role of the leader of the Jedi almost.
She is the leader of the Jedi, officially. Well, she's not Jedi anymore, actually.
She isn't a Jedi anymore, no.
Yeah. I'm using the wrong terminology, but yeah, leader of the guerrilla warfare. She's going to organize hit and run. Yeah. So hit and run tactics, sneak attacks.
Well, this is what I was going on about is that before. They're not an army. They're just guerrillas, so she's the perfect leader for that.
I really want to see sneak attack stuff. Like, we need to undermine the Empire, and they're going to start to organize things like a tough mission, where Ezra has to fulfill the specific role and has to go like they've done it in some elements of the first season. But I really want to see the interactions between Ezra and Ahsoka start to develop. Yeah. Because as much as I like Kanan and knowing that that's like the Jedi Master and the Padawan learner. Now let's see something that's not focused on the Jedi. Let's focus on the Rebels. We've just set up Rebels and where and how they're going to rebel. I want to see those moments.
Cool. Okay, so basically, I lied a little bit, Bobby, but it's more of a covering of a couple of things.
Don't worry, I've got lots to say. So
well, first of all, I can see this happening where it will still be the status quo, where it'll still be the ragtag motley crew, and it will still be Agent Callus. Okay? But now in the background, you'll have all these other cells. And you'll have Vader there, and you'll have Ahsoka Tano, and you'll have Grand Moff Tarkin. Now, I reckon we'll see them now and again, but they're dealing with the larger picture. Okay, so they'll pop in the odd episode here and there, and I will bet you £10 that it will be Vader. There'll be a Vader versus Ahsoka.
Oh, of course. You
fight
have
off.
to.
There has to be
You have
at
to.
some point. Whether it's probably going to be at the end
Yeah. And
of the show.
you also have to wonder, though, how much does Ahsoka know about Vader? And how will that affect when they actually meet for the duel? Because,
Yeah, this is true. This is true.
yeah, that's
So
gonna be-
that's quite interesting. That would be quite interesting to see. But also because of that idea of they're staying on the planet, still doing things around. But what I'd like to see, and I probably will see, is characters from other cells making guest appearances. So that it shows that there's other cells in the sector, that's causing mischief. And they will do exactly what they've been doing, taking out military facilities, installments, taking out whatever. It's not full-on war. This isn't Clone Wars anymore. This is, taking out a post, by leaving a bomb, taking out communications, things like that. It's the resistance. It's a resistance, and that's what they're doing. And that's what I like to see. I'd like to see James Earl Jones doing the voice. I think he is credited on episode 1.
He is.
I think
There was an extra scene that they created at the very end of episode 1 where the Inquisitor actually contacts Vader, and you see Vader on a hologram, and he is voiced by Earl Jones.
Yeah,
Right, good.
On the wiki they are listing him as the voice actor for Darth Vader.
So that would be good, and because of that, I would see him only getting a few scenes. He'd be in 1 or 2 episodes, kind of thing. I'd like to see Grand Moff Tarkin a lot more because he is a fantastic character. I love him. I absolutely love Moff Tarkin. I thought Peter Cushing was brilliant in the first one. Don't get me wrong, but and when you look back at that film and you see that, look at that guy. He's not the Emperor, and yet Vader is still his bitch.
Yeah.
That's how cool Grand Moff Tarkin is. Yeah, and I'd like to see more of that. As Vader, because at this point, this is when Vader's really cool because he's like the muscle, the Emperor's muscle.
His right
And
hand
there was
man.
the whole idea of, we were talking about Inquisitors as well before. I want to explain a little bit about Inquisitors of the past. What the Inquisitors' job was to root out heresy, and so they'd investigate, and whether they did the job right or not, whatever. That's what Inquisitors are doing now. They're hiding. They're finding hidden Jedi, so they're investigating, moving in, interrogating people, and then torturing them to confess that they're Jedi, kind of thing. Kill them. That's what the Inquisitors. So that's what I see the Inquisitors doing. So I can see Vader taking control of the Inquisitors. So what we'll probably see is a new Inquisitor as the main bad guy that will turn up. He'll be the major villain, and then Vader will be over him with Moff Tarkin in the background. So that's the kind of thing that I was thinking of anyway. But what about you, Bobby? What do you think?
I actually have a little bit of knowledge about season 2, which I've actually held back.
A little bit inside.
I have a bit of
inside knowledge.
Yeah, they
Go on then,
recently, when every episode of the first season was released, on the Star Wars website, they released a series called Rebel Recon, and it basically takes you behind the scenes. It shows you where they actually make the show. And at the very last episode, at the very end, it gives you a little bit of a preview of season 2. It shows you some concept art, and some of that concept art is B-wings. Some of it is the crew of the Ghost, but on a larger rebel ship, talking to others. You see art of some other rebel cells as well, and it kind of other stuff. I'd definitely go and check out the video, YouTube, because it's fucking awesome. And anyone
There'll be a link at the bottom.
Definitely link at the bottom. But no, I completely agree. I think the status quo shouldn't change. However, I think we should also, like you said, have guest cameos from other cells coming in and have a bigger sort of battle waging on in the background, which maybe they can become involved with for an episode or two, but then get back to their normal style of things. The one thing, though, I really want to see is, in the last episode, we got the revelation that Kanan actually walked away from the Jedi Order when his master was being killed. He ran, and how is this going to affect him and the other characters in the show? Because up to this point, they think of him as just a Jedi who's in exile, who's in hiding. But in actual fact, he ran away from the Order. So if that comes back to bite him in the chest, I can kind of see that. Also, the backstory of characters like Sabine and Ezra. You know, I want to know what happened to Ezra's parents. I want to know why Sabine hates the Empire as much as she does. Hopefully, in the second season, these things will be developed. And also, you lot were saying about how you think it should still be on Lothal. I actually want to see some other planets for a change. That was the one thing that season 1 also kind of got the wrong side of me. I've seen enough of the planet now, of Lothal. I want to see some other planets. I want to see how the Empire has affected other planets. Even if it's for an episode or two. It doesn't have to. The whole series doesn't have to be based on a different planet. Just go and visit some other planets, you know, because I'm sick of just seeing little creatures running around in sort of...
you want to see green, don't you?
Yeah.
You want to see green. Maybe a bit of snow now and again.
Oh, I'd love them to visit a nice one.
Isn't it funny how Star Wars planets are all one season?
They are, yeah. Look at Hoth. It's
They're all
always
like,
snowing. You know?
It's like Hoth. It's everywhere snow. You go to Tatooine, it's always desert. Come on.
Also, I do actually know something about Ahsoka and what she's going to be doing in Season 2. You lot were saying about how she's going to be a general and all this, but she's also going to be the master of Kanan and Ezra. She is going to be teaching them how to become much more one with the Force. She's going to be the master out of those two, because Kanan is a Jedi master to an extent, but he hasn't had his full training. He's still...
no, he's still a Padawan.
Yeah, exactly. But whereas Ahsoka, by the time she left the Jedi Order, she was so close to becoming a Jedi Knight, so she is much higher.
No, she was a Jedi Knight. Once they were going to give her the title Jedi Knight, but she left, didn't she?
Fair enough, but she still is. It still doesn't really make her a Jedi Knight then. But she's going to be the teacher of those two, and I'm so looking forward to how these three are going to interact with each other and what they're going to get up to. And also, just a little hint, there's a piece of art of her with her lightsabers, and you're going to love this, you two. They are white. They have no colour because she's neither Sith nor Jedi.
Oh my god! Yes, nice.
I knew you would love that. I
want to see a link, Bobby.
I will.
I want to see a link.
Links will be at the bottom of this description of this video. But yeah, it looked freaking awesome. And apart from that, really, Vader I would want as kind of a background character that's controlling things. But I really don't want to actually see an Inquisitor come in for the second season. I want Callus to take the place of the Inquisitor. Now, obviously, he can't fight Kanan as well as the Inquisitor could, but I really want him to come back into the forefront of things and actually be a threat to the rebels this time.
Yeah.
I think it'd be more of what I'd like to see is an Inquisitor come in, because you need an Inquisitor to fight Kanan and Ezra, but he's only there to take them out. Then that should be his job. That should only be his job. Agent Callus, his job is to make sure that the military are working right, you know, putting the pressure on. So, yeah, I think that's how it should go.
And I would like, I know you two probably don't agree with this, but I actually would like some more cameos from characters who's already established. I would love to see a young Han in it, just appear for one episode.
No.
Really?
No.
You would like it?
Sucks ass idea.
Well,
sucks ass, mate.
Speaking of actually having returning characters, there's something that I held back until this moment, because I found this extremely funny and extremely ironic, and this is the first time I've actually even attempting to talk about it. But this is the nerd crossover. This is where the nerd rage happens between Star Trek fans and Star Wars fans.
Oh, I knew you were going to do this. I knew you'd do this.
Well, Brent Spiner is the voice actor of Gail Travis, or Senator Travis.
Yeah.
And they really didn't develop his character all that much, so there was insufficient data.
Oh, for God's
sake.
God.
Honestly,
Razz,
you know
really?
what? You are lucky you're across the Atlantic. I swear to God, I'm going to build a raft. I'm going to row over there, and then I'm going to row your ass. I'm going to paddle your ass.
Well, hold on a sec. Can't you see the irony of having a famous Star Trek actor in this new Star Wars series, and they didn't really do anything
like
really?
George Takei that was in the last one.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was one of the governors. He was the, oh God, what was he, a fat cat or something?
Yeah.
You know the tribe, the tribe that lived.
Oh
in
yes, yeah.
And it was him. That was George Takei, the bad guy, the senator, the governor, whatever he was.
The one with the defoliator, which was a weapon that destroyed everything. Yeah. That was pretty.
This
Cool.
was just it was just that one little beat to see that
So
I smiled, I laughed when I saw that, and I was like, this is
Yeah.
I know it's too many connections,
That brings up.
but just to
That brings up another
just
point, though. Like,
yeah.
I see. All right, I would like to see more appearances from people like Han. I know you two don't agree. Maybe not in the second season, then. Maybe third or fourth, if Rebels ever gets that far. But I would like to see the Senator come back in a theme, because I really liked the episode where you found out that the Senator was actually working for the Imperials, for the
Yeah.
Empire, and I would like to see him develop more, and how now that he's actually came out as I'm working for the Empire, how that affects him, and if the Rebels meet him again, what are they going to do? So,
Yeah.
The only character that I would like to see that's from originally, a character from the trilogy is Leia.
Yeah.
Because she's the only one. She's the only one that would make sense her being there
she
because
has
of Bail.
connections, Yeah.
She'll be with Bail Organa. She would be with her dad, and that's it. I can't see Han being there. His background is too way out there. Never mind what his background is now, or whatever. He was a Corellian. That was it. That's all. That's all we got him. We're not going to see him. We're not going to see Chewie. I don't want to see any bleeding Wookiees.
We saw Chewie
Nope.
in Clone Wars, so I don't want to see him again.
Yeah, we don't want to see Yoda. I don't
We've
want to
heard
I don't want
Yoda.
to see anyone.
We've heard.
I'm
Yoda,
bad with
but we haven't
names. I'm
actually
gonna need your I need your help. I need your help with remembering this fellow's name. He's been in all of those, all the Star Wars video games. He's part of Red Squadron. He's the famous guy.
Wedge Antilles.
Wedge Antilles.
Yeah, Wedge.
Oh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Wedge. He's only a few years older than Luke.
See, that's somebody
and-
that I really wouldn't want to see. I wouldn't want to see
Yeah.
young Luke. That would just.
Well, no,
Yeah.
I'd like to see young Wedge and develop as
I
his
don't think we
see
will.
his story.
Is he? He's not from Alderaan, is he?
No, I don't think so.
No, he's not, is he?
I don't
so
know.
I
I know
can't
it's
see how we're going to see him. You see?
I know it's such an odd thing to say, but we're going to start to see not TIE fighters. We're going to start to see X-wings.
Yes.
And to have the development of the X-wings, it'd be interesting to see Wedge being like a mechanic working on, like a little cameo popping in there. I don't know. That would be a nod for me. That would
I
be
tell
like,
you what
oh,
I'd like to
yeah.
see about that. I tell you what I'd like to see about that. It's you. Some of you guys who are watching this will already know the answer, and I have a vague thing of this, but I remember reading the tech specs of X-wing and who the factory guys who did it. The same guys who did the T-16 and all that. How that came into being.
Yes.
I'd like to see a prototype, maybe. Or someone designing, or something like that. Do you know what I mean?
I was going to talk about this. Yeah.
No, I'm not saying X-wings. We're not saying
No,
X-wings.
but-
Remember, this is rebellion. This is just guerrilla warfare. This is not an army.
No.
So the X-wings would mean that there's an actual army to fly in.
See,
So
the X-wings actually, their design was originated from a previous ship called the Headhunter, the Z Headhunter.
Okay.
Those weren't for army. These were for rebels or smugglers or whatever. If you have a squad, if you have some of them in the series and have Wedge sort of tied up with them, that would be interesting. That would actually make sense because you could see then how they could develop onto being the X-wings in later films.
I don't know much about Wedge's background or where he's from or anything, but I can't see him being in it. To be honest,
this is one of those characters that I've seen in Star Wars that I wanted to know more about, because if you've played video games on the Nintendo 64, like Rogue Squadron,
Brilliant
and, it's something where Wedge takes a prominent role in that, and especially when you get into the, like, I haven't played any of the old Republic games, but I like Wedge as a character that he could be fully fleshed out.
I just want to say something. I just realised Ezra is the same age as Luke and Leia.
I know. And what's going to happen when Ezra meets Leia?
Well, nothing really.
I don't know. Will they do that?
I think that's what I'm saying. I think the Lando. I don't mind seeing Lando again. I liked that thing where he'd say a certain word, a big word, and then he'd look at one of them and go, "That means such a thing." I like that kind of thing. I thought Lando was kind of cool.
Yeah.
This is the biggest danger that I see this series taking, is that Star Wars is so well known. You've got characters that are so well known. You've got Vader, Leia, Luke, the Emperor. We've got these major characters that could take over the show. This is Rebels.
Yeah,
And
I'm not
the
going to see that.
moment-
I don't think we're going to see that.
The moment they start to have things like bringing in Leia, I don't want that to happen.
No, the only thing like I could say, like out of all of them, the only thing I could perceive as actually turning up is Leia, and only then would it be like, you know, they're talking to Bail Organa on the ship, and she's with him.
Yeah, yeah.
She's there. She's holding his hand or something, and that's it.
You-
This is my daughter Leia kind of
You
thing.
have to,
And that's it.
You have to sort of figure though, if because of how closely Bail and Ahsoka are working together, Ahsoka must know Leia as well.
Of course she
which
does.
then adds complications to the thing because her
No,
old
she'll
ma-
know who she is
yeah,
as well.
Yeah, exactly. That's going to be.
She will know. Baylor will have told her
So.
because he trusts the Jedi.
I think that just brainstorming and thinking about what you're talking about here, of introducing Leia, it does bring up the interesting spark about whether or not Ahsoka will notice Leia, if she's introduced, having an influence of the Force or being stronger with the Force.
She probably will. She probably will.
Just one last thought then before we finish. I do know that somebody else is going to be appearing in season 2. Now, I'm not sure if this is a rumor or it's confirmed, but if it is a rumor, it's a very strong rumor with quite a lot of evidence to back it. Is that we're going to see Palpatine in an episode?
I can imagine we can. The only thing I would
Palpatine.
say about that. Oh, sorry.
I go on.
You all went delayed then. Sorry. Was that he's on a TV screen or something?
Or,
Do you know what I
or
mean?
it's a hologram. If Vader is talking
You know, like
to
the
him by a
Senator did.
hologram.
You know that spy, him doing it.
Cool.
Okay then. So that's it from us. I think is everyone finished?
Yep.
Okay, cool. That's it from us. If you're still here, thanks for still being here. If you like what you listen to, comment below. Like the video. This is all on Rob. Rob doesn't usually do Star Wars. He talks about other things as well.
I've talked about it in the past, you know.
Yeah.
He talks about Star Wars. Yeah, I know. It's just Star Wars. It's other things as well. Have a look at him. Come and have a look at our stuff as well, because
Definitely,
we're really
check out
good. In
these.
fact, mine's far superior to Rob's. Rob's is kind of just like waffle.
I think
It's
about
really good.
that. Yours
What's
is a
a
bit
mine?
more
Mine's
bearded,
classic.
You know, I mean, yours has got a lot of beer going on in that, so it could put people off.
If you
Yeah.
like a real man,
Go for Razz.
go Razz, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll start talking about Babylon 5 and Farscape.
Not Farscape.
B5 is
Farscape
fine.
sucks.
Farscape
You're gonna scare them away talking about Farscape.
You will.
Rubbish. Anyway, thanks for joining us, guys. Links to our shows will be down at the bottom, as well as the link to the thing that Rob was talking about with the behind-the-scenes stuff. So until then, take care of each other and yourselves. Be good now. We'll see you again.
See you guys.
Bye-bye.
May the Force be with you.
Oh, I've really got to go and buy some Rebel figures now, haven't I?
Yeah.